I'm Barbara Brickman. I'm a professor in New College and cross-appointed in the Department of Gender and Race Studies. And I am somebody who has studied film and television and media for a long time and have just now started entering into the place of making film. So that's sort of part of this project. Do we want to introduce, or I'll just go and then we can introduce ourselves as we go. Okay. Catherine Roach is a colleague of mine and approached me a while ago about this collaborative arts initiative that she was starting, and she was working with Hannah Drake, and you know, did I want to be involved? And I, at the same time, teach a class called Girls Culture. We'll see how much longer that class is called Girls Culture. We'll see if that name changes. But my class in Girls Culture, in its very, very origins, helped me to create this thing called Druid City Girls Media. We'll see how much longer it's called that. Which was a summer camp for girls in the community, and then expanded to be after school workshops, expanded to be students doing workshops in the schools, and then we started encouraging student media projects, both young people in the community and undergraduates. And so Catherine approached me, and some students in my girls' culture class tried to help me with this project in its infancy, thinking through how we might be inspired by Hannah's work to produce a kind of film project. And so at the very beginning of this, I had 4 students in my class both find footage, shoot footage, and then I very pathetically put together a rough cut to Hannah's poem of the student footage as a kind of prototype, a kind of vision of what it could be. And then, fortunately, Catherine kept collaborating and found an actual filmmaker, Sean Haley, who brought this very, very nascent film into a kind of more, let's say, professional form.
Well, I'll just add a little bit more to that, but yeah, I work, my name's John Haley. I'm in journalism and creative media here at University of Alabama, and I work primarily as a documentary filmmaker, and this was kind of a different way of working for me, where I'm used to kind of, you know, discovering the story and the process and filming in an observational capacity, and this was kind of, all these pieces were actually here, and, you know, I ended up, you know, shooting some additional footage to kind of fit the structure of the poem that existed, and work with some of the footage shot by Druid City Girls Media. But I think it was interesting to have this, an interesting and different way of working, to have this structure that then footage was responding to and speaking to this world that was created in the poem, and trying to stay in that world of the field that you all will see on screen. And I think, you know, I was in the process finding like new uses for footage that I had shot years ago that had never been used, to kind of been, you know, put in the archive of birds or of you know, just beautiful spaces. And I think, you know, it's filmmaking and editing is so much about rhythm too, and oftentimes you're finding that with the footage you shoot. And this was just, I think, a really fascinating and beautiful way to work, where there's rhythm to the words that we say and speak, and the way those words sound, and then the way that music comes in to shape that space too. And, you know, kind of there were times where I think individual shots and cinematography, kind of that shot stood for itself, and then there was times where it was like being directed and kind of cut with the spoken word in a way that kind of makes the meaning clear, that I think you'll all kind of see on screen.
I am Jamila Cooper, and here at UA, I don't really operate in any kind of creative capacity. In my regular life, I am an author, a singer-songwriter, things like that. But here, I just work in New College with Catherine and Holland and Barbara. And so that put me in a unique position to kind of be presented with the opportunity to participate in the making of this film in a way that I lend vocal accompaniment to the, you know, as a layer behind what Hannah has to say. And it's a really extraordinary poem that kind of pulls to the front of your mind and keeps at the front of your mind the injustices against Black women and the fates that some of them have unfortunately suffered as a result. And so the experience of recording for that, which I did with Holland Hobson in his home studio, was just having to draw on the emotion that Hannah's words evoked in me. And so that was, I guess, just my way of being able to lend or inform, I guess, the process from the perspective of a Black woman, just what that poem makes you feel. What does that sound like? You know, so, and in a lot of ways it was pain, but in a lot of ways it was also triumph and the hope that it makes you kind of reach and long for. So I don't know how to explain that in regular words, but just kind of once you get to view the film that John has put all together, you can kind of listen to that and kind of think of what kind of sound what you're hearing might pull out of you, or I don't know. It's very much a poem that will make you feel and see. And so we just kind of lended what we could to what it is that you hear.
Thanks, Jamila. My name is Holland Hobson. I'm also in New College, a colleague, and have a cross appointment in the Department of Art and Art History. My memory of starting this project is Catherine approached me and I said no. I didn't think that I was the right person to take this on and to work with this group, and so I reached out to some other people to see if someone else would take it on, and no one did. And so I said, fine, I'll give it a try. But thinking about not being the right person was sort of led me into an approach for making the sound for this, and that was to step back and to let others drive what was going on. And part of that is what you do when you make sound for media anyway. The images usually have primacy, and my job is in the supporting role, but for this, I was particularly conscious of that, reading Hannah's poem, working from the prompts that she had given. And then what Jamila didn't say is that she basically composed the music on the spot in the studio, right? So all I did was press record, and then she took over from there, providing a ton of amazing sound and material that then we incorporated and edited, and so it was a really great experience. It's fun to be part of what we're now calling the New Alabama Studio.